Welcome to the Red Dirt America podcast. I'm Chuck Taylor, and this week on the podcast, we talk with Rodney Crowell about the pandemic, his new album Triage, and the song that changed his life. That's next on the Red Dirt America podcast.
I know that somehow, some way right then, I decided that I was going to figure out how to do that.
I pledge allegiance. Pledge allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to real country music. This is Red Dirt America with Chuck Taylor.
First of all, thank you for agreeing to do the interview, man. We've got to talk many times over the years, and it's always a pleasure to get to talk with you.
Yes, sir, I remember.
Let's talk about this new album. It's called Triage. And we've been playing the first single off of it. Something Has to Change. I love the horns. It is really something different, and not in music itself, but in your music out there. Having those horns. Is that a trombone or a trumpet that you're using on that?
It's a trombone. And thank you for noticing. I had the track recorded, and we had, your standard brilliant guitar solo on it by, Ollie Freed or Stuart Smith, one of the guitar gods from around here. And I said, with all due respect, beautiful, but I have a long history of great guitar soloists on my records and on stage with me. I said, let's try something different. So we scratched our head for a while. We tried a few things, and nothing really was surpassing the guitar. And then I thought about a trumpet, and I was thinking, what would Louis Armstrong play? And the trumpet really would have been too high and too thin. So I hit on trombone, and my producer, Dan Nobler, I said, he's from New York and came through the NYU School of Record Production, Clive Davis School of Record Production. And I said, all the jazz musicians up there in New York. I said, a good trombone player. This was during pandemic.
Yeah.
And so we sent him files up there and talked to, it's a guy named Ray Mason. Talked to him on the phone, and I said, hey, get your trombone and put a plunger, stopper in it and play something kind of bluesy like Louis Armstrong might have played if he was on a trombone. And that's what he sent back with just that little bit of information. Isn't that nice?
It's gorgeous. It's almost like the trombone is crying, and it's right there in the song. And it just, to me, it adds more emotion into it than a guitar solo would.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And also surprise. Surprise, surprise. What is this?
Yeah, exactly. It was fantastic. So tell me about this album. Tell me about Triage.
Triage, there's a song, the very first song that I wrote really that pointed the way was a song called Triage. And a friend of mine, you probably know of him, Joe Henry, producer and songwriter, he was facing some serious health issues, but he was facing it, with real, true heroic bravery. I mean, he's good now. He's in remission. He's good. But I was just so impressed. I said, I need to make him a song. He gets to have a song for this. It was inspiring. And so when I was thinking about Joe, I was just thinking about, well, it just can't be everyday stuff. It's got to be something, elevated, something, reaching for the stars, or, and I was thinking about with him, it was like, okay, let me try to capture something along the lines of universal love rather than boy and girl love. It's a medical term, but it was metaphoric for me, which is, figuring out the things that we need to do first, and the first thing we need to do is all love each other. Right. And that's basically what the song is.
Well, it to me, it's a perfect way to emerge from this year and a half almost that we've gone through. It's been a trying time for musicians and for everybody. I think the music industry truly affected because artists like yourself were not able to get out and play in front of people. And that's what you live for. And it was taken away from you. And it made it really hard to enjoy music when you can't go out there and see it live. I love listening to music, but there's something about going and seeing a show in person that transcends everything.
Yeah, it's a gathering. It's a gathering of folks of whatever the size of the audience is, all focused on one thing, and that particular song and that particular performance. But Chuck, I'll tell you that I had there was a good deal of pleasure that I got from being isolated, because I had some recording gear in my studio here where I am, and while I was locked in, I wrote quite a few songs and recorded them and played all of the instruments myself. Went around banging on the windows, seeing if I could make windows sound like drums and and that kind of thing. So I truly enjoyed it. But you're right. It's like these songs that, I used to talk to Guy Clark about it, and we would say, these songs aren't really ready, and we can't really call them songs until we've played them in front of people. And
that's when they breathe life.
Yeah, that's when you know. And so, yeah, it's now that we're getting ready to go back out and perform, I actually went down to Luckenbach to perform for the Jerry Jeff Walker tribute concert, and I could tell musicians and audience alike, we were all on fire. We were really on fire. There was nothing rote or in any way, just going through the motions. It was like your first teenage band, when you're just dying to play music.
Yeah.
So I'm looking forward to this tour, and I will be in Dallas, and I'm looking forward to it because I know that we'll be on fire playing, and I expect the audience will be so appreciative and so happy to be back in the seats that it should be, a real gathering. It should be so much fun.
Plus the Kessler, and this place, it's such a great listening room.
Yeah, that's what you do there, isn't it?
That's exactly what in Texas, we have listening rooms. We don't have concert venues. We have listening rooms.
Well, you got some concert venues there, but they're huge, so huge that, you can't hardly get that up close and personal thing that you get at the Kessler,
You were doing that song when I first came on, when I logged on to talk with you. Can you tell me about that song and then maybe do it for us?
I can, and I'm not ashamed to say that I told a lie, and I don't know why I did that, but I did, and I realized that I was going to get busted. It wasn't something that was dangerous with my wife or anything like that, but it's just one of those little white ones that I was going to have to own up to. And so the first thing I did to practice apologizing was to write a song. And basically, I think the song really is sort of a prayer, like to oneself, it's like, hey, okay, I made a mistake. Don't give up on me. I've been a liar. I have been a true. I've compromised myself, but I'll make it up to you. I'll beg your forgiveness, hand on my heart, to shatter your faith in me has torn my whole world apart. Don't leave me now. I don't know how much more I can say. Don't leave me now. There's no right way, there's no wrong way, there's only your way. Of all the shame on me, I'll shoulder all the blame. You'll see a different man. I pledge my very soul soul to you. I'd die before I'd ever do you wrong again. Life has very simple laws to profit from the pain you cause. A man must pay. Heaven knows if time will close a book on how the story goes. I dare not say. Don't leave me now. In time I can set this thing right. Don't leave me now. On a different night, in a different light, I can make things right. Don't leave me now. In time I can set this thing right. Don't leave me now. Don't leave me now. This mistake I've made, I will someday fade into the evening shade.
Wow, that is so powerful and so relatable. I mean, as a married man myself, we're coming up on our 20th anniversary. I hear that, and you know, we've all made those little mistakes every once in a while, and we're like, you know, don't let this mistake be the one, you know?
Yeah, yeah. Please don't let it be over.
That's such a relatable song. I found myself lost in it, listening to it. It is.
Good man.
I love that.
Thank you. I appreciate that so much. I can't tell you how much, because you know, I make these songs, I write them, and I want them. I keep thinking, well, if they work for me, there's a good chance they'll work for somebody else. And that's, you know, I start there, and if I think I've got it right, then I cross my fingers. And, you know, when you give me some feedback like that, I feel, you know, I really feel good about the work and think, oh, okay, you know, maybe, you know, I'm not kidding myself that I actually know what I'm doing.
Well, I think after all these years, you've earned the right to know what you're doing.
Well, at least to think I know what I'm doing.
You know, this. We were talking earlier about how tough this last year and a half is. We've lost some of our kind of music heroes, like you mentioned Jerry Jeff Walker. We also lost John Prine. Mm-hmm. We lost Billy Joe Shaver.
That we did.
You know, we lost even Charlie Daniels. Some of the greats in our music.
Charlie Pride.
We lost him too.
Joe Diffie.
Yes, sir. It's been a tough year for everybody in country music in particular, music in particular as well. When you think about the last year, and you talked a little bit about getting to write new stuff and experiment, what's the biggest thing you learned about yourself during this last year and a half?
I've learned that I could be happy if you took it away from me, as long as I could continue writing. I could. Let me put it this way: I could give up performing if I had to, as long as I could write both songs and prose. You know, to write books. I've written a book before.
Yeah, Tar Paper Sky.
Yeah, as long as I can do that, you know, and be close to my family, which I was. My my 4 daughters and their various husbands live within, yelling distance nearly of me. They're certainly in the Nashville area. So I'm lucky that way. And I'm a patriarch. I have grandchildren, and I'm kind of the center, because I'm the oldest, really. It's not because I'm the smartest, but I'm the oldest. And it's a blessed thing, and I could be really happy. Having a little garden, and writing songs and writing, some prose, writing some books. But I do. But then again, it's like I would have to mourn not performing because I'm an introvert, but I'm also an extrovert. It's funny. I'm sort of a split personality. I like being in front of people on a stage and performing. So I don't know what to tell you other than I have both.
That's something interesting that you say that. I myself, very introverted in public, but when I get behind the microphone, when I get behind the radio, it's like you become a different person. I think there's a lot of us in the entertainment industry that are that way. Certainly there are some that are not, that get into it because they are extroverts 100%. But some of us who are introverts, this is our way to express ourselves.
Yeah, and we are as creative as the extroverts in our own way, and a lot of good stuff has come from we introverts.
Who is your favorite hero of fiction? Because you talk about liking to write prose.
Yeah.
Who's your favorite hero of fiction?
Wow, hero of fiction. I would think that probably it would be, on some days, it would be Jonathan Franzen and Michael Chabon, who wrote Wonder Boys, and he wrote this other beautiful book I read this summer. I was a big fan of Anne Rice, as you know, when she was writing all of the New Orleans vampire. And then, then again, you got to come back, and Charles Dickens. Yeah. He and also Mark Twain. I mean, there's something about Mark Twain and Charles Dickens that the child is alive and well inside of them. And so there's joy and there's humor and there's darkness. And yeah, I've kind of skirted around, and I'm going to go Dickens and Mark Twain tie.
All right, Dickens and Mark Twain. That's a good pairing. I lean towards Edgar Allan Poe. I love Poe's work.
Yes.
And when you talk poetry, I'm a big Robert Frost fan.
Yes, I understand. I understand Robert Frost. In poetry, there's a guy named C.K. Williams that I'm a devotee of. And Wilfred Owen, the World War I Brit poet who passed away, who died, in France at 22 or 3 or something like that. And then there's Seamus Heaney. So, and you know what? And there's Townes Van Zandt and Guy Clark and Willie Nelson and Billy Joe Shaver and Chris Christopherson and Johnny Cash. Yeah. And I could rattle on for another 5-10 minutes on that.
Probably on that, yeah. Chris just announce this year that he's retiring, right? And Delbert announced the same thing this year.
Oh wow! I did know about Chris, but I didn't know about Delbert. Well, darn it!
Yeah. You got to get out and see your heroes.
Yeah.
While they're still touring. Yeah.
Well, luckily, I see them both around Nashville once in a while, away from. I guess with Chris, if he's really returned, he's going to be in Maui. We may not be seeing him for a while. Whoa. That's a lot to take in, after the pandemic and losing John Prine and Billy Joe, and then to think that Delbert's going to step down and Chris and Willie. can't step down.
No.
Willie's got to be the Energizer Bunny. He's got to go until the battery runs out.
I think he will go till the battery runs out completely. Plus, he's got that 4th of July thing that he's got to put on again. Now that we're getting closer and closer back to normal, he's got to do something like that again.
Sure. Yeah.
Let me ask you this: if years from now, somebody, whether in Nashville or maybe in Houston, at a sandwich shop, makes the Rodney Crowell sandwich, what would be on the Rodney Crowell sandwich?
Oh man! Woo! Okay. Bacon.
Yeah.
Lettuce.
Yeah.
Tomato. Some Havarti cheese. Oh, God. I mean, really.
What kind of bread would you put it on?
Oh, well, there's I've had to go gluten-free, and I don't even know the name of the bread. It's as long as you toast it, it's beautiful. It's the best toast I've ever had. As bread by itself, it doesn't stand up. So I just have to put it on, some whole wheat bread.
Yeah.
But I'd also have to smash up some avocado and put it on my sandwich.
There you go. Sounds like a good sandwich. So somebody, if you're out there listening, you need to come up with a Rodney Crowell sandwich, and we've got it for you right there. Yeah.
Well, there's, my brother Fairing there that runs his restaurant. Maybe he'll pick up on it and put one.
There you go. So you're coming to town on July 31st. You're going to be playing at the Kessler. I know we expect some music off of Triage because the album's coming out the week before you come to town.
True.
And obviously you'll probably do the one you just did. What else can we expect out of that show?
Well, here's what I'm pondering, and having been, in isolation for a while, I had a little time to think about myself and think about it, and people have been very patient with me. The people who are loyal and show up time and again to these performances that I give have always been very tolerant of my, I don't always play the quote-unquote hits. I usually sprinkle some of them in there, but I always kind of tried to live by the notion if my new songs weren't good enough to hold an audience's attention, I should stand down. Pretty dramatic thing to put on oneself, but it's sort of leading up to. I've been thinking I want to do some of my songs from album cuts that I always wanted to do and never got around to doing because I was always working and didn't take the time to consider that maybe I want to get back and do something like from an album of mine that I always really liked and thought it was a really well-written song, but just never performed it. And I'm thinking that this time that, when the people come to hear me play, they're always very patient and tolerant with me. And I think if I let them know, hey, I hope you enjoy this, but I want to play some of my more obscure songs that I still think are worth playing for you. Generally speaking, the audiences that come to see me are very willing to go that way with me. And so that's what I'm definitely going to do the new album. And I'll do, songs that I just have to do that I have to sing Till I Gain Control Again or Leaving Louisiana Broad Daylight. Those are just the rules.
Yeah.
But, some of these other songs that, like Ain't Nobody Gonna Tear My Playhouse Down. I loved when we wrote it and recorded it, but I never played it live. So I'm going to take this opportunity to trot out some things that I've never done before.
I think that's going to be fantastic. I know you recently worked with a young lady. She was doing an album called Waylon Songs, and you did Ain't Living Long Like This with her.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Shannon
McNally.
McNally, yeah. That turned out really well.
Yes, it did. And I produced Shannon's album before that, and so I was really harping on Shannon. I said, "You're a great songwriter. Your next album needs to be all your own songs. And she said, yeah, you're right. But then she went and recorded Waylon's songs. And I said, Shannon, and then I heard it. And I said, oh, hang on. Okay, I get it. All right. I'll stand down.
Do you think she's going to be one of the next big breakouts in maybe Americana, if not mainstream country? Mainstream country's been really turning poppy lately. They don't. I don't think corporate Nashville gets real country music anymore. But the fans still want it. It's pretty obvious down here in Texas. Yeah.
Well, it's always a changing world, and I get radio. Radio survives and thrives on their ad campaigns they run. They need to be putting those ads out there, and the music that they play really needs to reflect most of their ad campaigns. So I get that. Shannon might be too funky, because she's got, she slings it from the hip, and she's a sweetheart. If the folks got to know her, and see what a big old heart she's got, and she's absolutely drop dead gorgeous, and she sings like a bird, and she lived in New Orleans, she lived in Austin. And she comes from Long Island. She's a northerner, but she's got a southerner soul, And everybody who knows her loves her. And I would, I would love to see her break out. And I just produced an album on a young man from Fort Worth named Vincent Neil Emerson.
Yes, sir.
And Vincent. Man, he's in that tradition of Billy Joe and Townes and Guy Clark and B.W. Stevenson. He reminded me a lot of B.W. Stevenson, and I produced his album, and he wrote all the songs, and man, he's got it. He's got that thing that Texas songwriters have when they really pay attention, and he pays attention to Willie and Chris and all of those that have gone before, but he's got his own thing, and his album is just released, and I think he's going to be around for a while. Yeah.
I think you're right. I know Vincent Neil, and he's fantastic. So I listened to the album. I got an advance copy a couple of weeks ago and listened to it. It's a fantastic album.
Yeah.
Let me leave you with this last question. What song changed your life?
Probably No One Will Ever Know.
Why?
A Hank Williams song. I must have been 4, maybe 5. My dad was a much better singer than I am. He didn't write songs, but he had it. And he played local honky tonks and ice houses and beer joints, around East Houston when I was a kid. But he was when I was about 4, he was sitting on the bed singing that Hank Williams song. No one will ever know, my heart is breaking each time the past comes back to haunt me so. I'll cry myself to sleep, then wake up laughing. You've hurt me, but no one will ever know. Hank Williams classic. Yeah. And my father was singing it, and I was playing with some toys on the floor, and I just remember looking up, and I felt that song in my heart. And I didn't have, the wherewithal to process the thought behind it, but I have never forgotten the feeling that it gave me in my heart. And it was sad. It made me sad. And I know that somehow, some way right then, I decided that I was going to figure out how to do that. And it no doubt changed my life because I've made my living making songs all of my adult life. And surely it was that song and my father performing it that did it.
What a wonderful story. Rodney Crowell, thank you, man. It is always a pleasure to talk with you.
My pleasure. Thank you, sir. Yeah, you stay well, stay safe, and, I'll be happy to see you next time I do.
Yes, sir. Happy to see you next time I see you.